welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and let's talk about Pauper Commander. You know, I haven't talked about any Commander variants on my channel, not even a little bit. I mean, I guess other than CEDH, if you consider that a variant. But I just talk about regular old Commander, casual Commander, that's it. There are lots of variants out there. I've had people ask me about Brawl and all these other things. It's not really in my wheelhouse. However, there is a channel on my Discord for Pauper EDH, and a few of my patrons are in there talking about it. And I got in there talking about it, and I was asking questions of them about how does it all work. So how does it work? Well, it works exactly like Commander, except for your Commander, you can have any uncommon creature, right? So that can be a legendary creature, and obviously if you have a Tatiova, for example, which is one of the most popular commanders in Pauper EDH, because of course it's already a really, really powerful commander and easy to build around, and it's only an uncommon. So you can have Tatiova as your commander. Any uncommon legendary creature that already can be a commander can be your commander, but also any uncommon creature at all, right? So any creature that isn't legendary. And that to me is the part that makes it really interesting. There's lots of really, really interesting non-legendary creatures to build around. I made a bunch of videos about creatures that aren't legendary that I think make for interesting commanders. Here though, it's gotta be uncommon. And of course, the other important part, the Pauper part, is the 99 cards, which you can only have commons. And I believe the rule is it just has to have been printed at common at any point, right? Sometimes they switch around the rarity of cards. Sometimes it's uncommon, common, and then rare, and they'll keep bouncing around where they've reprinted. But as long as it was printed at common at any point, you can have it in the 99, but everything has got to be a common, right? Even the lands in your deck in the 99 have to be common. You can't have any uncommons, any rares, any mythic rares. So that is, of course, very restricting. And man, I really had to go down a rabbit hole there because I'm not used to that. I'm not like, what removal am I going to play? What ramp am I going to play? All the staples you need in your deck, right? The 6 things that every commander deck needs that I talk about. What am I going to do if I can't touch anything above common, right? I had to really do a deep dive. The ban list is the same except for 2 cards, which are obviously commons that are just super powerful. Rhystic Study, of course, is just going to be way too good, I guess. I mean, I imagine that's why it's banned. Mystic Remora the other. Both of those cards are commons that would be able to typically be played in Pauper EDH, but maybe because they're just too good in the common slot, I don't know, they're banned. Those 2 cards are banned. Everything else is the same. So uncommon commander, everything in your 99 of your deck has to be common. Rhystic Study and Mystic Remora are the only additional banned cards. And where do you go from there, right? And I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole with it. It was kind of a neat little experiment that I did. I ended up making 2 decks that I will be talking about here. Both decks I think are pretty interesting. Am I ever going to put them together in paper? I don't know. Obviously, you would need to regularly be playing Pauper EDH in order to do so. Because they are Pauper decks, obviously, it's not going to cost a lot. I mean, I haven't actually checked, but I imagine both of these decks would be incredibly cheap to throw together. So what did I put together? My first deck is a Necrotic Sliver deck. That's right, a black-white slivers deck. And of course, this is a fantastic sliver because it destroys permanents, and of course, you need to be dealing with your opponent's permanents in any commander game, and destroying any permanent is obviously the best way to do it. So, 1 black and a white, sliver 2/2. All slivers have pay 3, sacrifice this creature, destroy target permanent. So, of course, we want slivers in the deck, and there actually is a bunch, right? That's the first thing I did. When I saw Necrotic Sliver, I was like, I wonder how many common slivers there are in black and white. There's a lot. It was not a problem finding enough slivers for this deck. I have 33 creatures in the deck. They're not all slivers, all right? Some of them, of course, changelings work here as well. A changeling outcast is a sliver. This will have that sacrifice, destroy a permanent ability. I have a couple of creatures that are not, like Core Cartographer, right? That's not a sliver. Obviously, I need ramp in this deck. I was going deep. How do I find ramp in this deck that is in the common slot? That is one way to do it, right? So I do have a couple of changelings and I do have a couple of creatures that aren't slivers, but I do have a whole lot of slivers, right? And it makes it really, really easy for you, again, What's the removal in this deck? My commander is the removal. It's very easy to do so. Obviously, I'm on a little bit of sacrifice theme here as well. Again, the interesting part for me was because I had the removal part already dealt with, what's the ramp I'm going to use, right? What are the card draw options I'm going to use? I can't use the usual suspects. What are the lands I'm going to use, right? Because I can't use a lot of the lands that I would normally use. I think I put a pretty neat deck together here. I have everything you need in a commander deck. It's got a pretty decent mana curve. Necrotic Sliver, again, allows you to deal with any of your opponent's permanents. So that's already something really big checked off your list. The deck list for this is in the description below. If you are a Pauper EDH player, feel free to give it a check. Let me know how I did, right? This is my first go at it. My second go at it was a really fun one, Blistercoil Weird. I don't know what people usually do in Pauper EDH. I thought Blistercoil Weird would be a really funny commander to build around. It's just a really funny creature in general. It's a Is-It mana, so blue-red, 1 mana, weird 1/1, so not a lot of weirds in the game of Magic. This is one of them. Really funny art too. I've always loved this card ever since I first saw it, and has a very interesting ability. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Blistercoil Weird gets +1/+1 till end of turn. Untap it. And of course, I did a lot of research before I put these decks together. And of course, the Is-It Spellslinger theme, even in Pauper EDH, works incredibly well. And a lot of people are going to tell me, why would you play Blistercoil Weird when you can play this other uncommon blue-red commander that works so much better? I thought this was a funny way to go. I just think this is a funny, interesting commander. And for me, what makes this better than any of the other spell slinging Is-It commanders that people might be using in Pauper EDH is the untap part. That's the part that I built around more so. I did a lot of things that they are doing in those decks. Likely, I'm sure I did. Again, the typical spell slinger theme. But what I did that was very unique, that worked particularly good with Blistercoil Weird, is the untapping part. So I can just cast spells, and again, I can do the cantrip thing very easily, like Crimson Wisps, which it's not a great card, but it works good with my commander because it's a cantrip that also untaps my commander, right? 1 red mana instant. Target creature becomes red and gains haste until end of turn and draw a card. The haste could be very relevant as well, but this gets me the cantrip and also untaps my commander and also makes my commander bigger. Don't forget about that part. So one thing I can do in the deck is I can play Retraction Helix. 1 blue mana instant. Until end of turn, target creature gains. Tap, return target non-land permanent to owner's hand. So now I can tap my commander to bounce permanents. Banishing Knack is the exact same thing. It does the exact same thing, also an instant. So when I cast it, it will trigger my commander if he's already tapped. And then now every instant and sorcery I cast essentially becomes bounce a permanent. Not too shabby, right? Because I'm going to tap my commander to bounce a permanent. Then I cast Crimson Wisps, untap my commander, do it again, and I can just bounce a whole bunch of permanents. I thought that was a pretty neat fit in the deck. Because my commander is getting really, really big in this scenario as well, I also did the Defy Gravity, right? Target creature gains flying until end of turn. I want to make my commander have Evasion, Shadow Rift as well. Target creature gains Shadow end of turn, and I get to draw a card, right? So I'm doing that theme as well, because as I'm doing the, casting all these instant sorceries, untapping my commander can get to like maybe a 5/5 or 6/6 or something. And then once I've done all the things I want to do, I just cast Shadow Rift and I can get in for damage with my commander. Anything that is tapping my commander to deal damage, Power of Fire. 1 on a red, aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature has tap. This creature deals 1 damage to any target. So I can cast this on my commander. And this is going to stick around, obviously, because it's an aura. And then every time I'm casting any instant sorcery for whatever reason, before I do so, or when my commander triggers in response, I will tap it to deal a damage to something. And then it will untap and I can do it again, right? So I have a lot of effects like that. Hermetic Study is another one. There actually is a fair amount of effects like that. Those aren't instants and sorceries. They are non-creature spells, so they will work with my Kessig Flame Breather, which of course I have in the deck. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, deals 1 damage to each opponent. So that's how I'm going to help close out the game. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control will work as well, right? Go for blood. Now I can use my commander because it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger as removal as well. Arcane Teachings, 2 and a red aura enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has tap. This creature deals 1 damage to any target. So this is going to both give my commander that pinging ability and also make it bigger. And I threw Gravitic Punch in the deck. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target player and has Jumpstart. So I can cast this from my graveyard by discarding a card in addition to its other costs. So now I can just start going face. Once my commander gets big enough, I close out with Gravitic Punch and just go face for a bunch of damage as well. Because we have a lot of the pinging effects in here, Ophidian Eye will also work, because whenever enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. So I can now draw a ton of cards if I can get this on my commander, because of course I can ping one of my opponents now instead of a creature and draw a card, untap, and continue the process, right? Sigil of Sleep will also work this way, where now I can use this to bounce my opponent's creatures. 1 mana enchantment or enchant creature. When enchanted creature deals damage to a player, return target creature that player controls to owner's hand. So now as I'm pinging my opponents, I'm bouncing their creatures. Because I am doing a lot of the targeting of my own creatures thing, the heroic ability works here, and you always want a little bit of backups for your commander, of course. So Acheron Crusader, 1 red mana human soldier, 1/1, has the heroic ability. Whenever you cast a spell that targets Acheron Crusader, put a 1/1 red soldier creature token with haste onto the battlefield. So all these things, whether I'm casting a Crimson Wisps or I'm casting a Aura or a whatever on my creatures, now I can target my Acheron Crusader and make a bunch of red soldier tokens. Chorus of the Tides, 3 and a blue Siren, 3/2 with flying. Heroic, whenever you cast a spell that targets Chorus of the Tides, I get to scry 1. So again, if my commander is not on the battlefield, or maybe I have something like one of these pinging things like my Arcane Teachings is already on my commander and I have my Hermetic Study in my hand, I'm not going to put it on my commander. That seems like a waste. I'll cast it on the Chorus of the Tides instead. So now I have that heroic trigger, and then I also get to have another pinger in play, right? That's the deck. I think it's a pretty neat one. How did I do, right? All you expert Pauper EDH players out there, I got 2 decks I threw together. Again, I spent about 6 hours doing all the research, putting a couple of decks together. Those are the ones I decided on. I didn't go with the legendary creature because I thought I can already play legendary creatures in regular Commander, right? Why would I want to play a Tatyova or something like that in Pauper EDH when I can already play Tatyova in regular Commander? For me, playing Pauper EDH gives me the opportunity to play creatures that I normally wouldn't be able to play as a Commander. You know, as a deck builder, I think that's the best reason to play that format. So those are the 2 decks I made. If you guys are at all interested, both deck lists are in the description below. That is it for today, though, and thanks for tuning in.